Hi. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good weekend or the week or whatnot. This is just a heads up about the episode you're about to see. As with everything new, um, we've encountered some teething issues, which is just part of reality, and that's something that I say in the episode, and something I believe as well. I believe that reality is where we are in, and it's important to be flexible. Nothing is particularly perfect. Specifically, we had some logistics issues around the camera. If you're an audiovisual savvy person, you would notice that the focus of the camera is not on me, it's on some background, which is, don't ask me why. Um, and we also had some editing issues that I decided not to pursue too much. So the episode you're going to see is totally unedited, top to bottom. You even hear me say things like, I'm going to take that again, and things like that. But this podcast is supposed to be an expression of me, and the fact that we were not able to get everything right gave me some anxiety based on the promises I'd made around um, content release schedule, which is also something that I'm rethinking to make sure that it's in line with what is really realistic and what won't put me under too much pressure, as it were. So, because this is supposed to be an expression of me, it's called the 11th man. I'm supposed to be the 11th man. I believe in authenticity a lot, and as a person, I'm not perfect. I have um, learning curves, which is again natural, and just a bunch of other things. As a result of all of that, I decided that instead of having this give me anxiety, I'm going to use it as a source of just another expression of my humanity, as it were. So I decided to post the episode as it is, but because again the audio has not been edited appropriately, I think it's going to be a video only episode, just so that you're able to contextualize some of the pauses with the gestures and things like that. Um, I considered re-recording the episode actually, but then my headspace is not where it was then. The things I'm thinking about right now are not the things I was thinking about then. And if even though it's the same person, I can try to re-say the things I said. I feel like it won't be as authentic as that point where that was really what was on my mind. And so I like the content, and that's why I've decided to go with this. And also as an expression of liberalization of myself from artificial restrictions. Um, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. I liked it. I really did. Thanks. Hey. Hi there. Welcome to this podcast, The 11th Man, a Pan-Africanist theory with Ola. As you probably guessed, I'm the 11th man, and this is my Pan-Africanist theory. Welcome. Today, we're just going to talk about a bunch of things that have been on my mind. And our topic primarily is transitions, right? In that we all have transitions in our lives. And you can argue that even being alive, being here, in and of itself is a series of transitions, right? And in and of itself, I guess, is a transition, right? This is transitory in that at one point we were not born, at this point we exist, but we do know that we're going to die. So there's a journey that is happening there. And in the past couple of months, you know, a couple of things have happened with coronavirus and things like that. A lot of things have been upended. A lot of things, a lot of plans have been disrupted one way or the other. And I've had some of those plans that have been disrupted as well, which has got me thinking about how transitions need to be handled. So we'll talk through that. We'll talk about just transitions overall. We'll talk about my philosophy on it and my perspective as to how transitions should be handled. Now, there's definitely nobody here that knows everything. Um, this is this is soliloquy that I think would make sense to you. So, right now I'm in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm getting ready to travel to another location, top location in 2 days. But apart from just relocating, there's also the fact that where my mind is right now is different. And I'll give you a tip that I found to work. So I always encourage people to travel, regardless of how much money you have. There's somewhere you can go to. You can go from this town to the other part of to the other town, or you can go from this side of town to the other side of town. But I think that when you travel, when you move, you soak in different things from different places. You learn things, and you recognize that the way that things work in your world, they're not necessarily the way they work for every single person. But for me, one thing that happens when I travel is that when I'm about to leave the place I'm at, I'm in this headspace of creativity. You might call it stolen creativity, for instance, in that it was borrowed from the place that I'm living. So when I see people act and I see the differences between cultures and just how people approach things that I normalize in a certain way, seeing them approach it separately or not separately, differently, then allows me to reconsider how I do my things, especially when I'm going to this other place, right? And so I always have ideas that I pick up when I'm transitioning, and some of those ideas have been they get scary, right? And that's the first thing we'll talk about with transitions: fear. I've been experiencing some fears in the past couple of weeks, and we'll still talk about this a little bit more. But I follow a philosophy called Stoicism, and there's something in Stoicism called premedit. I don't know the Italian, but I know the word or I know the meaning, which is the most important thing. I always tell people usefulness is the most important thing. But it's called premeditation of adversity, where you just think about worst case scenarios and walk through those scenarios mentally. Different people have different reactions to it. Why are you setting yourself up for depression or things like that? But I think that led me to one of the things I researched this past week, which was the difference between fear and anxiety. Just intellectually, in my own head, I feel like fear is better than anxiety, for some reason, and that was what led me to the research. And I think the major thing that I got out of the research was that fear is generally always associated with something specific. There's an object of the fear. But anxiety does not particularly have an object. Now, the research is what I read, divided between whether anxiety is good or not. Some people think anxiety helps increase your performance and things like that. But I'm reminded of the Bible verse that says something along the lines of do not be anxious, right? Um, and so for me, I feel like fear is good in that it might be associated with a direct risk, a real risk that I can look at, I can measure, I can weigh, as opposed to anxiety of just this like boogeyman that is going to come after me at some point in the future. I don't know when it's going to come out. It's just going to come out and just punch me, and that's it. So, um, what I've been feeling more has been fear than anxiety, and I feel like it has fueled me in some ways. Of course, we have the fact that biologically our body has the fight or flight response to potential danger. And so there's also this whole thing about nature in stoicism and living in accordance to nature. And so When I find things that you can mirror in nature, I always love it. Ironically, this is a slight digression, so I'm going to put a pin in it. This is the pin. And the point we're putting the pin in is difference between fear and anxiety. We come back here, me and you. But slight digression, when I was younger, I remember there was a time when anything I heard, before taking it as an absolute truth, I would see if I could find a mirror in nature to see if this is a rule or this is just one of those things. And this was way before I found Stoicism. This was way before I did a lot of research, just intuitively. Um, and so, sorry, Dan, I need to cut this place because I'm trying to link back to my thought process. So I said, I always look for parallels in nature. And so, I'm back now. And so, when I find something that has a parallel in nature, it allows me to be able to look at more variables than the variables that I currently have. I'm able to see how those things pan out in nature. And for sure, you know of businessmen that find inspiration from how animals interact with each other, and people who get leadership um, ideas from herd technology in cattle and things like that. And so that's more like what it is for me. And then back to our pain, back. Um, I'm kind of happy that what I've been feeling is fear as opposed to anxiety. I mean, there's some elements of the anxiety aspect in it, in that I also don't know how things pan out. But then that's the thing, that's the second thing with transition. So the first was fear. The second is that transitions are inevitable. We actually live in a continuous string of presence. And I think that one of the causes, so I'm going to take that again. Transitions are inevitable. In reality, we live in a constant string of presence. So there are present moments at every point that are strung together to to give the illusion of our existence, as it were. And so one of the things they say in Stoicism is that every moment is here and is gone. Right? The moment where I did the first tap thing is gone. Right? I can tap the same way with the same posture and everything, but in the universe, the way the universe is organized has changed, right? And so we're in constant states of transitions and constant presence. And that's where I found my own solace with transitions. I think that one of the significant causes of humans is our creativity. It's one of our biggest blessings. I think that we are all creatives, and I think that we should all aim to express ourselves creatively so that we make our own impact in the world. We contribute that one thing. Someone worked on some diode that allowed me to be able to get like a semiconductor for my computer, for my phone, and things like that. I also want to be able to contribute something in any way, right? To just, push it forward a little bit. And so I think that one of the curses is the fact that we are so creative, we can imagine all these things. And a lot of us do not live in the present, we live in the future. But the reality is that the issues that you deal with are in the present, not in the future. And in Stoicism, they say that why bother yourself twice? Worrying now and then worrying when the thing happens, right? So I'm starting to see transitions as like almost like slowing down the transition itself so that you're not just zooming through it, you're living in the moment of the transition. And I think that in looking at issues from the perspective of what is within my control and what is not within my control allows you to be able to recognize that anxiety would kill you in that you don't even know what you're scared of. And while we would never be guaranteed of the exact arrangement of material in the universe, right? You can brace yourself for what would happen in the moment. Um, so yeah, with the fear, I've just been thinking about the fact that the most you can really do is to prepare yourself in the now. So I do a little bit of boxing. I think I inadvertently jabbed the mic thing. But yeah, I can throw jabs, and do some of those things. Although maybe half of you can still beat me. But in boxing, which are found to be a very good metaphor for life, you never really know what is going to happen. You just have to be as prepared as you can be, recognizing that you would do what is within your own capacity, what is within your own power, and then just let the chips fall where they fall. Um, so yeah, I don't know how you guys deal with transitions in your life and what types of transitions you're experiencing, but it would be good to have a conversation around it, tools and tips, techniques that you've used to deal with anxiety when you're approaching transitionary periods. For me, there's a lot of fear of the unknown, but there's also excitement in that what I'm transitioning into, apart from the fact that I'm changing locations, my primary focus would also change from here to there. And then there's a lot of uncertainties around. And I've realized that my desire is to find certainty in uncertainty, which makes me kind of stupid, actually, in that reality is what we've been dropped in this reality. And then that is what comes at us. Wishing for a reality outside of the reality that we have is stupid because, I mean, shouldn't that energy go into wishing for something else after you've dealt with what you have right now? Right? So um, I've realized that just that desire that I have for someone to just tap me on the back and be like, Olatunde, see, you'll be okay. See, let me tell you, my biggest dream is just one day I just sleep. Angel Michael will just tap me. Just be like, oh, brother, I am here to tell you that everything is going to be perfect. Just knowing that, I feel like even I'm willing to deal with the daily stress if I know for sure that everything is going to be perfect. But then what does perfect mean? Right? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for you? Where is my idea of perfect coming from? Right? There's so many people that inspire out there, and for sure we should be inspired. But then I think that you need to inspire you. I need to inspire me. I had a set of classes with some kids that I was doing. I was taking boxing classes with, and one of the things I used to tell them was, "You're responsible for teaching yourself. You're responsible for carrying yourself. You're responsible for making sure that you are okay." And when transitions happen, to varying degrees, if those transitions are things that affect you mentally, you also need to make sure that you're appropriately positioning yourself for the next phase. And so that's something I've been thinking about with staying in the present, like I said before, how to address fear, and the fact that we're always waiting for that next thing that would make things perfect or guaranteed. And so there are no guarantees anywhere. Um, Stock market guys would be like, yo, now that you've sold your Facebook app and you've made so much money, bring your money, we're going to invest it for you. And you're guaranteed X amount of returns. But at the end of the day, there isn't anything guaranteed. And so while transitions are inevitable and they would always come, I guess what we can really do is stay ready. I'll tell you something that we say where I'm from. Um, when people get into fights or things like that, we sometimes say, Elemi Loma last. Elemi Loma last means it's the person that has life that would last in the fight, right? So it is the person who still has vigor, who's still going, you know, that that will come out victorious, right? Because sometimes it's not just about being able to put that energy out at once. It's about being able to sustain it and being able to go through, you know, through those presents while being present. That sounded like some dope shit, but I don't know, maybe just in my ears. But it does make sense in that, again, we are in presence, and when I'm transitioning and I'm thinking about the next steps and the challenges that are going to come with the next steps, I have to also recognize that while I would plan for those next steps, I really would not be able to handle those situations until I get into those situations because I do not know the characteristics of those situations. And so, what I can trust is that I will be equipped appropriately to be able to deal with them. And that happens in the present, right? And being able to see things, being able to analyze things and be rational. I'm also a very rational person, or I try to be. Um, and so my sister will tell you that when she tells me some things where she's trying to elicit too much emotions from me, I'm just like, I just say some super dumb ass rational thing. And she's just like, that's what you're going to say? I'm like, yeah, doesn't it make sense? But then it does make sense, but it also doesn't make sense to her because she's like, no, contextualize this thing. You get. Um, and so I was telling one of my friends today that in life, we just have to make sure that we keep moving, right? We're living in presence. And so we need to keep moving. I think that sometimes we might move in the wrong directions. And that guarantee of how does this transition that I'm about to get in, how does it end? Sometimes cripples us from being able to take the first step. I read something the other day. The guy was saying that you would always wish you started earlier. And this has been significant for me. Um, in part of the things that I'm transitioning into, there are a lot of risks, there are a lot of unknowns. But then it's a spectrum, right? It's risk reward. And then risk is inherent anyways. I can shelter myself in some rock as a rock. Oh, wait, that was not a political jab, by the way. But I mean, it serves as well. So, you people that are in Aso you can shelve yourself in Aso, but if a massive enough steroid lands on Aso it will crush it. And so there's still risk there. It's been mitigated a little bit, but the desire to totally eliminate risk also is a desire to totally eliminate reward, potential reward. And I think being able to look at it from that perspective has been really good for me. So I think that's it. Any other thing I say, I'll just be repeating themes that I've already talked about. But for transitions, we face fears. We have the desire for everything to turn out the way we want it in our heads. We want that guarantee. And we tend to lose focus of the present. These three things are things that we should always focus on when we're transitioning. These are things that I'm keeping in mind. As I go from this phase to the next phase, as risks emerge and issues become clearer, and the requirements for me to stay on track become more magnified. I hope I'm able to live in the present. I hope I'm able to stay focused enough to see what is happening and then recognize that I would never be guaranteed an outcome. I can only just try my best and keep moving. Thank you. This is a piece of advice from the 11th man. It's still a Pan Africanist theory.